Have you ever walked out to your beautiful green garden with a morning cup of coffee, only to find that your prized tomato plants look like someone took a blowtorch to them? It is a heartbreaking sight. Those dark, greasy spots on the leaves and stems mean one thing, and it is a gardener's absolute worst nightmare. We are talking about late blight. Today, we are going to dive deep into exactly what you need to spray on your tomatoes and cucumbers right this very second to stop this disease in its tracks. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will have the ultimate, foolproof strategy to protect your harvest and keep your plants thriving all season long. But here is the crazy part. Most people think more water means healthier plants. But what if I told you your watering habits are the exact reason your tomatoes are getting sick? Stick around, because we are going to expose some massive gardening myths. Let me know in the comments right now, have you ever lost a whole crop to a mysterious disease? Share your pain and let us fix it together. To truly defeat our enemy, we must first understand it. The pathogen we are dealing with is called Phytophthora infestans. That is a fancy Latin name that translates roughly to the plant destroyer. And trust me, it lives up to its name. This is not just some annoying garden pest. This is the exact same historical pathogen that caused the devastating Irish potato famine in the 1840s. It thrives in cool, wet, and humid conditions, spreading through microscopic spores that ride the wind like tiny, invisible paratroopers. When they land on wet leaves, they germinate and invade the plant tissue, turning vibrant green leaves into brown, rotting mush in just a few days. Cucumbers face a similar villain, often battling downy mildew and powdery mildew, which can coat the leaves in a white dust or yellow spots, shutting down the plant's ability to create energy. Understanding this is crucial because treating these plants is not about bringing them back from the dead. It is all about building a chemical and physical shield before the invaders can breach the castle walls. Let us talk about the urgency of the situation and why the words "right now" are the most important part of this entire video. Late blight does not wait for the weekend. It does not care if you are busy with work or if you plan to get garden supplies next Tuesday. Once the conditions are right, meaning high humidity and temperatures between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, the spores can infect a plant and start reproducing in less than 10 hours. Think of a vivid example. Imagine leaving a slice of bread on a wet counter in a warm room. The speed at which mold takes over is terrifying. The same thing happens to your tomatoes. If you see your local weather forecast predicting 3 days of rain, you must apply your protective spray before the first drop falls. Many gardeners believe the myth that you can spray plants while it is raining to wash the disease away. That is completely false. Rain washes away your protection and creates the perfect swimming pool for the blight spores to multiply. You have to be proactive, not reactive. Now, we need to address the most famous and effective remedy for organic gardeners fighting late blight. I am talking about copper-based fungicides. Before you panic about chemicals, let me explain. Copper is a naturally occurring element, and liquid copper fungicide is widely approved for organic gardening. It works by releasing copper ions that disrupt the cellular proteins of the blight spores, essentially destroying them before they can take root in the leaf. To give you a clear illustration, imagine your tomato leaf is a medieval fortress. Spraying liquid copper is like covering the walls of that fortress in a thick layer of sharp glass. The invaders land, but they are instantly destroyed before they can break the skin of the leaf. However, there is a massive myth that you can just dump heavy amounts of copper into the soil to cure the plant through the roots. This is incredibly dangerous. Too much copper in the soil will become toxic to earthworms and beneficial microbes. You must strictly follow the label directions and use it only as a topical leaf spray. If you are looking for a fantastic homemade alternative that you probably already have in your kitchen, let us explore the magic of baking soda. Baking soda, or sodium bicarbonate, is a fantastic preventative spray, especially for powdery mildew on your cucumbers, and it offers mild protection for tomatoes too. The science behind it is wonderfully simple. Baking soda significantly raises the pH level on the surface of the leaf. Fungal spores absolutely hate alkaline environments. They need a slightly acidic surface to sprout and grow. A great illustration of this is trying to plant a delicate flower seed in a barren, salty desert. It is just not going to grow. The environment is too harsh. By spraying a mixture of 1 tablespoon of baking soda mixed with 1 gallon of water, you turn the surface of your cucumber leaves into a highly alkaline desert. Many people believe the myth that baking soda cures fungal infections. It does not. It only prevents the spores from germinating. Once the fungus has entered the plant tissue, the baking soda cannot reach it. Let us add the secret ingredient that makes your homemade sprays actually work, and that is a surfactant. A surfactant is simply a substance that breaks the surface tension of water. If you just mix baking soda and water and spray it on your tomatoes, you will notice the water forms little beads that simply roll off the leaf and onto the ground. Your protection is gone in seconds. To fix this, you must add a few drops of mild organic liquid dish soap or horticultural oil to your mixture. The soap acts as a binder. Imagine trying to paint a wall covered in grease. The paint just slides off. But if you wash it first, the paint sticks perfectly. The soap allows your protective copper or baking soda mixture to spread evenly across the entire surface of the leaf, creating an unbroken shield. Be very careful to avoid degreasing soaps or detergents with harsh chemicals, as these will strip the natural protective waxes right off your tomato plants, causing severe chemical burns when the sun comes out. Another highly debated spray, specifically for cucumbers, is the milk spray. Yes, you heard that right. Plain old milk from your refrigerator. This might sound like absolute nonsense, but agricultural science backs it up. Mixing 1 part milk with 9 parts water and spraying it on cucumber leaves is incredibly effective at preventing powdery mildew. How does this bizarre trick work? The proteins in the milk interact with the ultraviolet rays of the sun to create an antiseptic effect on the leaf. Furthermore, the milk feeds beneficial microbes on the leaf surface that actually outcompete the harmful fungal spores for space and food. Think of it like a sold-out concert. If the good microbes take up all the seats in the stadium, the bad fungal spores have nowhere to sit and simply die off. However, we must bust a common myth right here. Milk spray is fantastic for the powdery mildew that attacks cucumbers, squash, and pumpkins, but it is practically useless against the brutal late blight that attacks tomatoes. You must use the right weapon for the right enemy. Timing your spray application is just as critical as what is in the bottle. This is a rule you must never break. You should only ever spray your tomatoes and cucumbers in the early morning or the late evening. If you spray your plants in the middle of the day, when the sun is beating down, you are going to cause severe damage. The liquid droplets sit on the leaves and act like tiny magnifying glasses. A perfect example of this is when you were a kid playing with a magnifying glass to burn a hole in a dry leaf. The sun hits the water droplet, magnifies the heat, and scorches the plant tissue, leaving brown, dead spots. Many new gardeners see these burn spots, think the blight is getting worse, and spray even more, creating a disastrous cycle. Spraying in the early morning allows the liquid to dry before the sun gets too intense, leaving only the protective residue behind. Evening spraying is also great, provided there is enough airflow for the leaves to dry before nightfall, as wet leaves sitting in the dark can invite other bacterial issues. The actual technique of how you spray is a game changer. Most people simply stand above the plant and mist the top of the leaves until they look wet. This is a massive mistake and almost guarantees your plants will still get sick. The spores of late blight and downy mildew almost always travel on the wind and get swept up underneath the leaves. The undersides of the leaves are where the stomata are located. These are the tiny breathing pores of the plant, and they are the perfect unprotected entry point for a fungal infection. Imagine walking in a rainstorm with an umbrella. The top of the umbrella gets wet, but underneath remains completely dry. If you only spray the top of the leaves, the underside remains completely vulnerable. You must take your spray wand, get down low, and spray upward, ensuring the bottom of every single leaf is coated with your copper or baking soda mixture. This takes twice as much time and effort, but it is the secret technique that separates master gardeners from frustrated beginners. We need to address the absolute necessity of pruning in combination with your spraying routine. No spray in the world, no matter how expensive or powerful, will save a tomato plant that is overgrown into a giant tangled jungle. The plant destroyer fungus loves stagnant, humid air. If your tomato leaves are overlapping and packed tightly together, the moisture from the morning dew can never evaporate. You are creating a luxurious 5-star resort for fungal spores. Think of a crowded subway car in the middle of summer. If one person sneezes, everyone gets sick because there is no fresh air. You must aggressively prune the lower branches of your tomato plants, especially any leaves touching the soil. You want to create a tunnel of airflow at the base of the plant so the wind can blow right through, drying the leaves quickly. Pruning also allows your protective spray to actually reach the inner stems and leaves, rather than just coating the outer shell of the foliage. Now let us talk about the soil splash factor, which is the sneaky way blight attacks from the ground up. The spores of many tomato diseases actually overwinter in the soil from the previous year. When a heavy rainstorm hits, the large raindrops smash into the bare dirt like tiny meteorites. This causes mud and microscopic spores to splash upward onto the lower leaves of your tomato and cucumber plants. A vivid illustration of this is jumping into a puddle with white shoes. The mud does not just stay on the ground, it flies up and ruins your pants. To stop this, you need a physical barrier. A thick layer of natural mulch like straw, shredded leaves, or grass clippings acts like a shock absorber. When the rain hits the mulch, it gently filters down into the soil without splashing any dirt back up. Applying a thick layer of mulch will cut your disease rate in half, making your protective sprays significantly more effective because they do not have to fight a constant invasion from the dirt below. Let us dive into a highly potent biological spray that is gaining massive popularity. I am talking about utilizing Bacillus subtilis. This is a naturally occurring bacterium found in healthy soils, and you can buy it concentrated as a biological fungicide. Instead of using a chemical to kill the blight, you are using biological warfare. When you spray Bacillus subtilis on your tomatoes and cucumbers, these friendly bacteria rapidly colonize the surface of the plant. They consume the nutrients that the blight spores need to survive, and they actually secrete natural antibiotics that inhibit the growth of the bad fungi. Imagine deploying a massive army of microscopic soldiers to guard every millimeter of your plant's surface. A common myth is that biological sprays work instantly like chemical ones. They do not. They need time to establish a colony, so you must start spraying this early in the season, before the disease even arrives. It is a long-term defense strategy, not an emergency rescue mission. There is a homemade concoction that has been used for generations, and that is garlic and onion extract spray. Garlic is naturally rich in sulfur compounds, specifically allicin, which has incredible antifungal and antibacterial properties. To make this, you blend 2 whole bulbs of garlic with a quart of water, let it sit overnight, strain out the solid pieces, and add a drop of dish soap. When sprayed on cucumbers, it acts as a powerful deterrent to powdery mildew and even repels insect pests like aphids that can spread other viruses. It is like covering your plants in a vampire repellent, but instead of Dracula, we are fighting fungal spores. However, we must be realistic. While garlic spray is a fantastic preventative measure and great for overall plant health, it is not strong enough to stop a raging, active case of tomato late blight. It should be used as part of a weekly maintenance routine to keep the plants robust, rather than a silver bullet to cure a dying plant. You must understand the critical importance of crop rotation when dealing with tomato and cucumber diseases. This is the silent killer that ruins gardens year after year. Let us say you had a terrible outbreak of blight this year. If you plant your tomatoes in that exact same spot next spring, you are basically sending your new, healthy plants into a contaminated war zone. The spores from the infected plants fall into the soil and go to sleep for the winter, acting like microscopic landmines waiting for the soil to warm up. A perfect example is sleeping in a bed where someone just had a terrible flu. You are practically guaranteed to catch it. You must rotate your crops. Plant your tomatoes where your beans were last year. Plant your cucumbers where your carrots grew. You must wait at least 3 to 4 years before planting tomatoes or potatoes in the same soil again. This starves the overwintering spores as they wake up to find their favourite food source is completely gone. One of the most heartbreaking mistakes gardeners make is trying to compost diseased tomato and cucumber plants. When the blight finally wins a battle and a plant dies, your first instinct is probably to rip it out and throw it into the compost bin to recycle the nutrients. This is an absolute disaster. Most backyard compost piles simply do not get hot enough to kill the spores of Phytophthora infestans. To kill this pathogen, the centre of the compost pile needs to sustain a temperature of over 140 degrees Fahrenheit for several days. If it does not, you are essentially creating a concentrated breeding ground for the disease. Think of it like bringing a Trojan horse into your garden. When you spread that beautiful compost next spring, you will be manually painting the blight spores onto your new plants. Any plant showing signs of late blight must be bagged in black plastic and thrown in the household trash or burnt completely to ash. Let us talk about the role of nitrogen in disease susceptibility. We all want massive, towering tomato plants, so we tend to dump heavy nitrogen fertilizers onto the soil. Nitrogen fuels rapid, explosive green leafy growth. But here is the secret danger. When a tomato plant grows too fast because of excess nitrogen, the cell walls of the new leaves are stretched thin and are physically weak. They become incredibly soft and succulent. To a fungal spore, these weak cell walls are like a soft, warm stick of butter. It is effortless to penetrate and infect. An illustration of this is building a house. If you build it too fast using cheap, flimsy wood, the first strong wind will blow it down. You want your plants to grow steadily with strong, thick cell walls. Switch to a fertilizer that is lower in nitrogen and higher in potassium and calcium. Calcium specifically acts as the cement that holds the plant cell walls together, making it physically harder for the blight spores to chew their way inside. Another fantastic tool in your spraying arsenal is neem oil. Neem oil is extracted from the seeds of the neem tree and is widely praised in organic gardening. But we need to clarify exactly what it does and does not do. Neem oil works primarily as an insecticide, suffocating soft-bodied pests like aphids and spider mites. However, the raw oil also contains compounds that help prevent fungal spores from attaching to the leaf. It acts as a smothering agent. Imagine trying to run a marathon while wearing a thick, heavy winter coat soaked in oil. That is what neem oil does to fungal spores. They cannot breathe or function. But here is the myth we must shatter. Neem oil is a preventative, not a cure. If the late blight has already entered the stem and is turning it black, spraying neem oil is completely useless. Furthermore, you must never spray neem oil when the temperatures are above 85 degrees Fahrenheit, or the oil will physically boil the leaves and cause irreversible damage. We need to discuss the secret power of hydrogen peroxide. Yes, the same cheap brown bottle you have in your bathroom cabinet for treating scraped knees. Hydrogen peroxide is essentially water with an extra oxygen molecule attached. When you spray a diluted mixture on your plants, that extra oxygen molecule breaks off and oxidizes or burns the outer cell walls of fungal spores on contact. It is an instant kill upon contact. A great way to visualize this is watching peroxide foam up when you pour it on a cut. It is actively destroying bacteria. To make a safe garden spray, mix 4 tablespoons of 3% hydrogen peroxide into 1 gallon of water. This is an excellent emergency spray if you spot the very first tiny spots of powdery mildew on your cucumbers. However, peroxide is highly volatile and breaks down into plain water within hours. It provides zero residual protection. It only kills what it directly touches at the exact moment of application, so it must be used frequently during high-risk weather. Let us look at a commercial organic option that relies on essential oils. Many modern organic fungicides utilize a blend of thyme, rosemary, and clove oils. These aromatic oils are packed with powerful phenolic compounds that actively disrupt the cell membranes of pathogens. Think of these essential oils as chemical drill bits that bore holes into the protective shells of the blight spores, causing them to leak out and die. The major advantage of these oil-based sprays is their smell. Not only do they fight off tomato blight and cucumber downy mildew, but the strong scent highly disorients insect pests that rely on smell to find your vegetables. The myth here is that because they are natural oils, you can use as much as you want. False. Essential oils are incredibly potent. If mixed too strongly, they will burn your plants just as badly as synthetic chemicals. Always follow the exact dilution rate on the bottle and test spray a single leaf before spraying your entire garden. A crucial part of any spraying regimen is knowing exactly what to look for so you can start early. You need to become a garden detective. Late blight almost never starts on the very top leaves. It usually begins on the older, lower leaves that are shaded and hold moisture the longest. You are looking for irregular, water-soaked spots that look slightly greasy. In humid conditions, if you flip that leaf over, you will see a fuzzy white ring of mold growing around the edges of the brown spot. That white fuzz is millions of new spores getting ready to launch into the wind. Think of it like a smoke alarm. The moment you see that greasy spot, the alarm is sounding. You cannot wait until tomorrow. You must immediately run, get your sharpest pruning shears, carefully snip off the infected leaf, put it in a plastic bag, and then completely drench the rest of the plant with your copper fungicide or hydrogen peroxide mix to kill the spores that have already spread. One of the most overlooked aspects of disease control is how you water your plants. We established earlier that wet leaves are the enemy. So, if you are using a traditional sprinkler that shoots water high into the air and rains down over your entire garden, you are essentially committing garden sabotage. You are creating an artificial rainstorm every single day, keeping the leaves perfectly wet for the blight to thrive. You must transition to bottom watering. Using drip irrigation hoses or a simple watering can at the base of the plant delivers the moisture directly to the root zone, where the plant actually needs it, while keeping the leaves completely bone dry above. Imagine taking a shower with your clothes on just to get a drink of water. It makes no sense. By keeping the foliage dry, you eliminate 90% of the environmental conditions that Phytophthora infestans requires to survive. Combine dry leaves with your protective sprays and your tomatoes will become virtually bulletproof. Finally, let us talk about consistency. This is the unglamorous secret to a massive, healthy harvest. You cannot spray your plants once in June and expect them to be protected until September. All sprays, whether organic copper, baking soda or biologicals, break down over time due to sunlight, wind and plant growth. Furthermore, as the tomato plant grows new leaves at the top, Those new leaves have zero protection. You must establish a strict routine. During high humidity or rainy weeks, you should be applying your preventative spray every 7 to 10 days. A great example of this is brushing your teeth. You do not just brush your teeth once a month and expect to avoid cavities. You do it daily to maintain the protective barrier. If you get a heavy thunderstorm that washes everything away, the clock resets. You must go out the very next morning as soon as the leaves dry and reapply your shield. Consistency, not magic, is the ultimate weapon against garden diseases. And there you have it, the ultimate blueprint to defending your garden. We have uncovered the devastating truth about late blight and downy mildew, and how fast Phytophthora infestans can ruin months of hard work. But more importantly, you now hold the turning point in your hands. You know that copper fungicide is your heavy artillery, baking soda is your alkaline shield, and that pruning and bottom watering are the real heroes of the story. The biggest twist of all? The ultimate remedy is not a magical chemical you can buy in a store. It is the shadow of the gardener. It is your daily attention, your consistency in spraying every 7 to 10 days, and your speed in removing the first infected leaf. Do not let the plant destroyer take away your hard-earned tomatoes and cucumbers this year. Be proactive. Get out there right now and build your fortress. Thank you so much for watching. If this video helped you save your plants, please hit that subscribe button, leave a huge thumbs up, and share this with a fellow gardener in distress. I want to hear from you. What is your absolute favorite variety of tomato to grow? And have you ever tried the milk spray on your cucumbers? Drop your answers in the comments below and let us get a great discussion going.